Hello, and welcome to this webinar about becoming a role model or mentor to help tackle the technology gender gap. This webinar is going to give you an overview of the whole initiative and its associated materials. And the initiative, the Role Model and Mentoring Initiative, is designed to help young women in technology, whether they're working or studying technology, understand what's involved in becoming a role model or mentor to teenage girls in secondary schools in Scotland. I'm Jane Ballantyne. I'm an Educational Development Officer for Girl Geeks Scotland, and I've been asked to put together these resources because I was a maths and science teacher for 5 years, and I've spent most of my life somewhere along the STEM pipeline, first as an engineer, then as a scientist, and now I work in educational technology. So I've got experience of both the education side and the industry side. The webinar is going to be split into three main parts. First of all, we're going to look at the aims of the Tackling the Technology Gender Gap Together project, which isn't something you can say very quickly, and why we need people to become role models or mentors to get girls interested in technology, and the kind of people we're looking for, and the difference between a role model and a mentor. And then we'll start to look at how you can get involved, what the process is, how you can get into schools, and what to do when you get there, how to create a difference, and what resources this project has provided to help you become a role model or mentor. After looking at the resources, we'll also cover some of the sort of common problems or concerns or key things that people ask about, and also the key points that you should draw out when talking about technology to girls. There's different things that can motivate girls, and they may have some misconceptions about what the industry is about. So it's talking about the kind of things we need to highlight, and then some recommendations about how to prepare, how to run sessions, and things to bear in mind when you're going into schools, as well as a few issues about how to deal with difficulties or difficult questions. So, first off, what is the Tackling the Technology Gender Gap Together project? Well, the Digital Technology Skills Group commissioned Edinburgh Napier University to research the extent of the gender disparity in digital technology and the reasons for it. So looked at the barriers that women face all along the pipeline and came up with some ideas of ways to overcome these problems of getting women into technology. They've produced an action plan to create a number of resources, of which this is one part. So there are other resources and other projects looking at producing digital skills for girls and teaching digital skills within subjects that have a higher uptake by girls and are different from what girls expect, so that girls can see digital skills and technology being applied in different contexts and maybe think about it in a different way, and also increase the exposure of digital skills to girls. There's also a best practice guide for employers to help them understand why women maybe aren't joining the industry, even if they have the skills, why they're leaving the industry. So to try and get employers to recruit and retain women within their workforce. There have also been some events that so far happened in Glasgow and Inverness, sharing best practices, good case studies, so schools, clubs, universities, employers getting together to share what works or what they found to work. And then there's this initiative, the Mentoring and Role Models for Girls initiative, which has been looking at all the initiatives that are already in existence throughout Scotland, so mapping and promoting the existing initiatives, of which there are many great ones, and then creating these training and support materials to help young women have some materials that they can use to go in to use when they go into schools, also help them understand a bit more about what is involved in becoming a role model or mentor, and direct young women to organisations where they can find out more and get more training. So why are you here and what can you offer? Well, what we're looking for is young women who are on the technology track, whether they are studying at university or working and studying, to go into schools and to inspire young girls to consider studying technology subjects. But we're not exclusively limiting it to that. So there's no age limit. You have older women, and men can also consider becoming mentors as well. So what is the mission? Well, the mission is to form a mentoring community of women in tech throughout Scotland who can support each other, motivate each other, and help each other succeed. So building confidence amongst young girls at school to help them consider that technology could be something they could do, that they could have the skills to do that, give them an insight into the industry, and help them make informed decisions about their careers, understanding what the industry involves, and help these young women feel supported on their chosen career paths, so that ultimately we have a network of women throughout Scotland who are supporting each other and helping each other to succeed in the industry. Why is this important? Why do role models and mentors matter? Well, at the moment, only 20% of those studying National 5 computer science at schools are female, are girls, and this is declining. It was 35% in 1995, and it has gradually fallen. It was 30% in 2013, and it's fallen to 20% when the new National 5s were introduced. So things seem to be moving in the wrong direction. Fewer women are getting into the digital tech pipeline than did previously. Fewer are then going on to read at computing degrees at university, only 16%. And the number of females working in digital technology is 18%. And a lot of those are working in the softer skills side of things and are coming at it later in life. So the pipeline isn't very full of women, and it isn't very complete. So yeah, the majority there said they like it, they think it's interesting. But interestingly enough, they don't think their friends like it. So there's some discrepancy there. But only 6% of girls aspire to work in the industry or would consider working in the industry, which is even worse than currently the 18% of women that we have in the industry. And there's also a misconception amongst girls that people who work in tech spend their entire lives working by themselves. So there are misconceptions amongst the girls in the industry. There's a lack of confidence, and there's a lack of aspiration to work in the industry. And that's why we want to challenge some of these ideas throughout Scotland. Microsoft conducted a survey recently in 2017 across 12 countries in Europe, and they found that having a role model doing STEM subjects was the #1 reason that women stated why they might stay in STEM. It was the biggest influence and made the biggest impact on their decisions to stay in STEM. And STEM is science, technology, engineering, and maths. So it's a bit broader than just technology, but it's very similar results are found across all the STEM subjects. And it was also found with this survey from Microsoft that girls lose interest as they become teenagers, and it drops off right at sort of choosing exam subjects and choosing degree courses. It's at its lowest, and then their interest in STEM subjects resurges and it goes up again at the age of in their 30s or late 20s, 30s. So there's this drop off that happens around teenagers and through to 20s. That seems unnecessary and causes women to lose skills at this point in time, because if they'd maintained their interest, they would have obviously studied it. So a lot of women who now work in tech have come at it later in life and have come at it from a different direction. So ideally, we would have this interest maintained throughout teenage years and 20s. Why does this matter? Well, technology is Scotland's fastest growing industry. There are over 90,000 people working in technology, digital technology in Scotland at the moment. It adds £4 billion to the Scottish economy, and there are more and more new jobs every year. There's close to 13,000 new jobs every year being added to the digital technology sector. And the other reason that we need women to consider going into digital technology is that doubling the highly skilled women's contribution to Scotland could add £170 million a year. And there are lots of technology companies in Scotland that are struggling to fill vacancies. So they can't find men or women to fill these vacancies. And there may be women out there with the right skills who aren't considering applying to technology companies. And research has also found that having a mix in the workplace, so having women in the workplace at over 30%, increases company productivity, innovation, profitability, and happiness. So having a gender diverse and a racially diverse workforce improves company profits and innovation. So what is a role model or mentor? Well, there's a difference between them. Role models is less of a commitment. Role models can visit schools only once, or they can visit schools regularly. So the idea is a role model goes into schools and shows that women can do technology and attract girls into the sector, and also show boys what the sector is like as well. So give a bit of career education to both genders, and to show girls that it's possible for them to enter the workforce. A role model gives a talk about their particular work or career choices, so what they've studied, where they work, what they do, what they like about it. They could also run specialist sessions teaching coding skills or anything else they want to teach, or they could help out at coding clubs or science clubs. And one thing that's very valuable that a role model could do is talk to parents at careers evenings, show parents what technology careers are involved, because some parents will have very little knowledge or experience of what they do, and encourage parents to see technology as a viable sector for girls to go into, because a lot of parents have big influence on the choices that their children make in terms of careers. If they could get very kind of close with the school and the teachers who teach computer science and technology subjects, they could be an on-call industry expert who could be Skyped into lessons or dialed into lessons to answer students' questions. A mentor has a different role. They visit schools regularly and they build a one-to-one relationship with the people they're mentoring, their mentees. So they help girls who are interested in technology learn about the industry and make career decisions that are coming up. So subject choices, college courses, considering jobs, considering which careers to pursue. They build a relationship over time. They make regular visits. They help the mentee set goals to understand, and they share knowledge about the industry so that the students feel that they've got the right information, they feel supported in making their decisions, they feel they have someone to turn to that can help them understand the industry, and then the mentor can help the student develop their knowledge and confidence by setting personal goals that they can achieve. Very different time commitment for role models and mentors. So role models can make one-off visits just irregularly. They could even go to a school just once, although ideally the more often they go, the bigger an impact they can have. So helping out a club or going more than once is a good idea. So once a month, once a week. Mentors have to commit to regular visits for a long period of time. So ideally, once a month for a year or more, or once a week for a year or more would be great, or even once a week for a term. But ideally a year or more means that they can really establish a long-term relationship with their mentee, and mentee gets a lot more out of that continual contact as they develop much further. So touched on this earlier, can anyone be a mentor? Yes, both women and men of any age, but ideally we're looking for younger women because the girls at school can relate to them better. They see them, as just a few years ahead of them, and also if you're just a few years ahead, you'll have more relevant experience about school and college life that you can pass on. So ideally closer in age, but anyone can do it. So what is the process and how do you get involved? Well, We recommend that you sign up on the STEM Ambassador Programme to become a role model. This will save you a lot of time because you have to have a PVG police clearance and get insurance sorted. And this just will help schools if you're on their programme, because they'll take care of a lot of the paperwork for you and it will help you complete the paperwork. And the other thing about joining the STEM Ambassador Programme is they will know the schools in the area. They'll know when there's gaps in the timetable. They'll be able to recommend which schools you should go to, when's a good time to go to approach them. If you are in employment with an employer who has contact with local schools, maybe feeder schools in their area, you could ask your employer if there's schools that they want you to visit, or if they have an ongoing relationship with those schools. I still recommend that you join the STEM Ambassador Programme though, just to get your paperwork sorted. And then you could also approach schools that are near where you live or where you work, or even your own former school, which is often a nice touch for the pupils because they can see what former pupils have gone on to do, and it makes them feel like they can do it too. If you want to get involved as a mentor, recommend you start as a role model, so you have practice of dealing with students, going into schools, understanding how schools work and what students' common concerns are, and then shadow a mentor so that you have experience of seeing how mentoring sessions work. So what kind of questions come up, what the relationship's like, and if you can, find your own mentor within the industry as well, because that's twofold. One, you'll learn how the mentor mentors you. Also, you'll have someone to talk to if you're having some issues with your own mentoring experience. And highly recommended is to train in mentoring, because it is a special skill. It's not necessarily something that anyone can do. So the Scottish Mentoring Network runs some training sessions that we recommend you try. So the pipeline is become a role model, then work shadow a mentor, then become a mentor. We really hope that you can find time to do this, because you get something out of it too. You'll develop your communication and leadership skills by going into schools and being a role model, running sessions. You'll certainly develop communication skills and understand a lot about how teenagers and people work. You'll increase your visibility within the industry, which can help with job prospects. You'll develop your professional network, and you may also get offered training opportunities as part of the process. So you can get something out of it. So how can you make a difference in schools? Your number one task really is to change the stereotypes that people associate with the technology industry, and that's for both girls and boys. So by being a woman who works in technology, you show that women can work in technology, do work in technology, and there are women ahead of girls in the pipeline in technology. So you're changing that perception. Also, try and show that technology is a creative industry and that technology is being used to solve real-world problems and make the world and our lives better. Because a lot of students don't see the creative side of technology. And to show the diverse roles that are involved within technology and the different skills that are needed within those roles. So it's not just programming, it's not just the hard coding skills that are required, but there are lots of other skills and types of people who are employed within technology, and there are lots of routes into the industry and lots of opportunities within the industry, lots of jobs within the industry and an increasing number of jobs within the industry. You also need to educate the parents and the teachers, because they will not necessarily have had experience of technology, know much about technology. So do that by speaking at parents' evenings, do that by taking in leaflets that students can take home or that you can leave in a library or with a careers advisor or leave with teachers. You can also have a longer term effect by running coding workshops and clubs or volunteering to help out at school clubs when you have the time. So in terms of what resources have been provided with this initiative to help you and what other resources are out there, Within this particular pack of materials, there are 2 sessions of activities that you can select from. And that means that there's a session for early secondary school students, sort of 11 to 13, 14, S1, S2, and then there's a session for students who are in S4, and it's been designed possibly for students who have sat their national exams and have some time at the end of the summer term, and who are considering options. And who might be looking at different routes into different industries. So there's 2 different sets of activities, and the idea is you select a selection of activities that you want to run, and you edit the session and you edit the accompanying presentation to suit whatever activities you're planning to deliver for whatever audience you're looking at. There are also 2 guidance documents for you to have a read of. One is about the process of becoming a role model or mentor, what is involved in each in a bit more detail. And one is talking about the gender gap in technology, some of the background information and about why the gender gap exists, what the problem is with it, why it sustains itself, and how we can look at overcoming the gender gap and changing people's perceptions of the industry and of women. There is also a directory of existing programs. So if you're interested in becoming a role model or mentor, there's lots of programs you can join, and the directory is there to point you towards various organisations that you can join. There's also been 4 online webinars and this webinar video. There's 4 how-to videos with quick tips about how to run sessions within schools. There are case studies of good practice, and there's lots of links to further resources where you can find out more. The Don't Believe a Stereotype session is designed for early secondary years, and there's an activity in there looking at what discrimination feels like and can look like in a low level within a work environment. That activity can be quite emotional for some students, can bring up a lot of questions. So we recommend that you check with the teacher that they're okay for you to run that activity before you run it. And also there to support you. You should be supported by a teacher at all times. But have a read and see if it's something that you're comfortable delivering. There's a lot of information about where stereotypes come from, how they limit us, how they're harmful to our development, and how they can change. And then there's a lot of information about the types of people who work in technology and the range of jobs that are available in technology. The session that's designed for the older students is a bit more focused on the application of digital technology and the roles and routes into the roles. So it looks at how technology is important in our lives, how it's changing every industry. There's an activity there about how to write an algorithm to create passwords. And you look at the benefits of working in technology and the routes into the industry and the wide number of roles available within the industry. Activity guides you've got here is also in the notes for the slides, but as you edit the presentation for whatever audience you're presenting to, just pull out the slides you don't want to use, and then you'll have the notes from the activities underneath ready to go. So how can you prepare? Well, to prepare running the session, read through all the materials that have been provided here. Find out who you're presenting to. So how old is the audience? Speak to the teacher in advance so you have an idea of what the class is going to be like. That may not always be possible. You may not be able to get hold of a teacher because they're generally in lessons all day. But if you can find out a little bit about the group that you're presenting to and select activities that are relevant to their age group and relevant to their ability, and edit and personalise the presentation. Take everything you need with you, know where you're going, turn up on time, because sometimes schools are on a very tight timetable, as I'm sure everyone will remember, so the bell goes and everybody rushes here, there and everywhere. So just be prepared and don't expect to rely on school Wi-Fi. It can be patchy, it can be slow, some rooms can kind of be in a Wi-Fi dead zone. So take your presentation on a laptop or your own laptop, If you want to use it to refer to or take notes, your own notes, just take a hard copy. And then you should be well prepared for whatever situation you'll find yourselves in. So, how do you get teenagers engaged? Well, this is a whole teaching degree in a couple of slides, but for your session, get them thinking about their future. So, what do they want to be when they grow up? What aspirations do they have for how they want to live, where they want to live? Relate what you're talking about to their everyday lives and experiences as well. So, they find it difficult to, people generally, but teenagers in particular, find it difficult to relate to something that's abstract to them. So don't talk about, how this banking system works, because they're unlikely to have very much experience of banks. So relate what you can to experiences that they'll have had, and show the importance of problems that you've worked on or the industry that you're in. And if you can, link it to anything that they've studied at school. Maybe speak to their teacher about what they've been studying recently. Link it to their maths, communication, graphical communication, whatever they've been looking at recently, and link it to their studies wherever possible. So that will help them understand, one, that their studies are relevant, and two, what you're talking about. Keeping teenagers engaged can be tricky, but using personal stories is effective. They want to find out about you. You're a new person in the school, and they will be curious to find out who you are, what you do, why you're there. And they may find it difficult to relate to you because a lot of people think STEM, people who go into STEM, children think that people who go into science and technology, engineering, maths are all super brainy. So if you can talk about problems that you've had, times that you've failed, or troubles that you've had along the way, then it makes you more relatable and helps them understand that they don't have to be perfect to have a career in technology. One thing to watch out is using company or industry jargon. It's going to be kind of easy to slip into this if you're talking about your work, but try and explain what you're talking about in language that an 11-year-old would understand. So don't be patronizing, don't simplify it too much, but do explain any specialist terms. And if you can, talk about local heroes, local companies. So add some aspirational aspects. And if there are any former students from the school who work at your company or have gone to your university, talk about what they've done, what they've gone on to do, and how successful they've gone on to be. Again, it helps students relate to their career journey and helps them aspire in the same direction. How can you explain the tech industry? Well, the tech industry is so incredibly diverse. It's not, just pure tech. Tech's in every industry now. So it's a difficult one to explain. You can talk about it in its sort of highest level terms, in terms of using programs to do repetitive tasks that allows computers can churn over things, find solutions faster, and hopefully with fewer errors than humans. And so I think it creates new possibilities because things can be done faster with less effort. So there are new solutions to new problems, new ways of communicating, new businesses, and new art forms. So although it might seem like it's a routine repetition of a task, actually it creates a whole new possibility. So if you think of the big picture, it's a very creative industry. It's also worth pointing out that every industry uses tech, that there are lots of different jobs within tech and lots of different people working within tech. And in many instances, there are people working together all around the world to build products and solutions. So a tech team might not just be in one office, but they might have remote workers all around the world or offices all around the world working in different time zones. So it can be a very exciting and dynamic industry. It might also be worth talking about how tech is influencing other industries. So, health tech is a burgeoning field, and it's creating, great advances in terms of improving the diagnosis and treatment of diseases, helping people become treated of an illness before they get ill, almost before they get ill, when they're showing symptoms but not feeling ill. And then educational technology that's helping people learn faster in new ways, and helping learning become more enjoyable. Financial technology, that's improving banking experience of customers. There's also things like Bitcoin and new forms of currency. There's also agritech, which is a way of looking at improving the quality and quantity of our food. And then there are lots of ways in which technology is affecting the creative industries. And it's worth drawing these out because teenagers relate to the creative industries quite a lot. They're very into music and film. And so if you talk about how creative industries have been touched by technology using virtual reality, you can experience prototypes of buildings and architecture. You can have virtual reality games. There are lots of ways in which technology is changing these artistic and creative pursuits. So to help encourage students to consider technology, it's important to show the variety of skills needed and to discuss the number of routes in. So some students will be put off the idea of going to university and studying for graduate qualifications or even postgraduate qualifications. So make sure that students understand there are lots of ways to get into technology, that modern apprenticeships can start straight out of school and can allow students to earn a wage whilst also getting trained. And that in technology, life experience is actually more important than any qualification. 46% of programmers are self-taught. And so it's really the experience that you have that's important in technology, much more than the qualifications. Although qualifications are a good foundation and can keep options open, because even if you have a qualification in technology, it can still allow you to work in other industries. It doesn't limit you to working only in technology. Showcasing superstars can help motivate students. So that, the big names like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs can be aspirational, and also females like Marissa Mayer or Martha Lane Fox. And then local heroes, and there are some very successful tech companies within Scotland that you can talk about. Skyscanner, one that comes to mind, hugely successful. Mashable, FanDuel, and Rockstar North also very successful. So choose a couple of companies that are local to where you're talking about, where you're delivering your sessions, and use those examples. Benefits of working in technology. Some students will be attracted to some of these benefits. So we've mentioned there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of options available, but technology and showing that technology is a vibrant creative industry that makes the world better. But some students will be attracted by the idea that technology will pay them more. It's a average technology job pays 30% more than the average job in Scotland, and the same job within technology can pay 20 to 40% more than the same job outside of technology. So it's a very lucrative sector to be in. Now, as the aim of this initiative is to encourage more girls into technology, how can we do that? Well, some girls might be concerned or be put off at the 18% statistic, only 18% of women working in technology. We need to be honest that there is this gender gap, but explain that things can change, show that there are other women ahead in the pipeline. There are other women within technology. The number is increasing as more women are entering the industry. So things can change. And sometimes there's an advantage to being a woman in technology in terms of getting more visibility within the sector, because you're likely to be the only woman in a lot of instances. Also, by showing that you've done it, you start to make a difference. And the more people who go into schools and show that there are women doing it, we change the way that people perceive technology, and that makes a difference in terms of what people think technology is all about. The challenges that are facing girls getting into technology, as we said at the beginning, is often they lack confidence in the subject. They can also feel isolated if they're the only girl in the room. So if they're looking to select subject options at school and think they might be the only girl doing it, they might still do it, but they'll be afraid of what their friends think about it. They might be afraid of being without their friends. They might also be afraid of just wider society drawing a conclusion about them, about who they are, what they're like, from the fact that they're studying technology. So using the feeling that if they don't fit the stereotype yet choose to do technology, that society in some way will damn them. And they are also afraid of asking questions if they're the only girl in the room, for fear of looking stupid and reinforcing the gender stereotype that girls shouldn't be in the room in the first place. So we need to help girls feel that they are entitled to be there, that it's okay to ask questions, and that it doesn't matter what people think of them. They should pursue their interests. To help attract girls into technology, these are the key points that you should highlight. These are the key things to remember when you're in the classroom or in the school talking to girls. Highlight that technology is a creative industry, that it is focused around solving problems and making a difference to the world. And you can point this out by asking students to think about that the apps they use on their mobile phones, how important they are to them, how they could survive without them, and what a difference, say, having a map on their phone makes to finding their way around. How this makes our lives better, and technology is continually solving problems by adding new features or new functions or new products to the world. And that within this there's a lot of creativity, like how to solve the problem, which problems to solve first. And no problem or tech product has ever been solved without team working. Well, most tech products will have involved quite a few people thinking about things from different perspectives. So team working is very important. Teams getting together to have regular meetings and daily stand-ups to think about the best ways to solve problems. And for girls who are thinking already of potentially having a family, the flexibility of technology can be an attractive option. So the idea that they could work from home, they could work remotely. There are options of working on your own with technology if they want to, with a young family. So there's a very flexible career, a very flexible skill set to have. Encourage girls who are interested to get into code. If they are coding clubs at school or in the local area, direct them to these so that they can get experience of coding and building things using technology. Ideally, single-sex coding clubs have been shown to help girls' advancement more than mixed clubs, because girls feel more comfortable asking questions within a single-sex environment, and so they progress faster. Or direct girls to online courses or forums if there's nothing available nearby, or if it just works better for their timetable. And there are lots of really great courses online and lots of really good courses they can follow. A lot of them are free. If they want support, they can ask questions on forums. They may feel uncomfortable about going on public forums, but you can tell them to use an anonymous username, not one that identifies their gender or them, if it makes them feel more comfortable. The most important thing is to show that girls can do it, and by going into schools, you're already showing that girls can work in technology. If you're feeling particularly inspired, you might want to know how to create your own materials, or you might want to add to the materials that have been provided with some of your own. So there's not just the materials as part of this pack, there's lots of other materials online you can choose from. You can create a resource from your own experiences, or sort of simplify a problem you've solved and show students this was something that you worked on recently. But before you use it in a classroom, test it out or ask a teacher for feedback. In terms of running good sessions, it's a good idea to ask open-ended questions, get students thinking, get them talking in pairs or working in groups, and make sure that the activities are at an appropriate level for their age, and an appropriate level for their ability. Not every 14-year-old by class is the same. There's some huge differences in ability. So if you find that the session's going quicker than you expected, you can maybe throw in a different activity. And if it's going slower than expected, pull out something from your plan. At the end of the session, recap the key points that you want them to take away with them. So the key points about technology being a flexible, creative, industry focused on problem solving with lots of different skills is probably the key ones to take away. And then if you can, leave follow-up details, so links of further resources, leaflets from where you work or study, or your contact details with a teacher who can get in touch with you, or for interested students maybe to ask you about courses or things that they're thinking about. There may be some issues arise, hopefully not. When students ask questions, these are usually the kind of questions what's it really like to do your job or your course? How did you get into it? How much did you earn? They may ask you more like personal things, like what problems have you had as a woman? And they may ask you some quite contentious things like, isn't it just natural that boys like technology? And isn't it unfair that you're encouraging girls to get into technology or giving girls mentoring? Now, students are curious. They not necessarily diplomatic, but they do want to know. So there are two approaches to dealing with some of the more contentious and difficult questions. Either know your facts, and the guidance on the gender gap is a good one to read for the facts on how the gender gaps existed, and the research countering that it's not a natural gap, it's something that has been enforced by the way that society's evolved. Or you could pose a counter question just to challenge students' thinking. So, is it fair that women earn less than men for doing the same jobs? So there's two different approaches, and one requires you to know a lot more than the other. And I would like to encourage you to leave every session, if a difficult question comes up, on a positive note, so that an equitable workforce is better for everybody. It's better for men, it's better for women. Research has shown that men are happier and healthier in more diverse and equitable companies, and also more equitable marriages. And that staff are easier to recruit and stay longer in a company that's more diverse and has a better balance of men and women. And this is a balance. It's no good if it's all women. It's not, well, it's just as bad to be all women as it is to be all men. So an equal and balanced workforce is one that is best for everybody. If there are difficult issues, if a student is being difficult, then go to the student's teacher. If something comes up that you're feeling very uncomfortable with, or you've been challenged in some way, talk to not just the teacher, but to your line manager or your tutor at university or your HR department. And if you have your own mentor, you can always talk about any issues you have with your mentor. So just to recap, please do become a role model and mentor. It's really going to make a huge difference to the next generation of girls coming after you. If you are interested, please register at dbstemnet.org.uk. Register on the Ambassador Programme, and the STEM Ambassador Programme will help you with all the paperwork. They can direct you to schools, and you can become a role model straight away. As soon as schools have time available, use the resources provided here. And if you like being a role model, then do consider becoming a mentor. There is mentor training available from the Scottish Mentoring Network, Get Mentoring and Equate Scotland. And there are lots of resources out there to help you both with your mentoring and to help students with their coding. So careers resources, Digital World, please direct students to digitalworld.net for advice and guidance about what it's like to work in the digital world. digitalextrafund.scot/find-an-activity is a great map that shows what activities are happening locally all around Scotland that students can get involved with. Wise People Like Me has some resources and great research looking at how girls can get into STEM, how to encourage girls to get into STEM. There are some American resources about mentoring from Northwest and Virtual Cap that are very good to have a look at if you're interested in mentoring. Likewise, the Scottish Government Self-Evaluation Guide is also worth a look. Coding courses to direct students to, Khan Academy, Code Avengers, Udemy. MIT's got a huge number of courses for all different levels, Udacity, Code Academy, Code School. There are plenty more probably out there that you can find. So lots of good ones, and there's more in the other resources provided with this set of materials. So finally, I'd just like to say, please do consider becoming a role model or mentor to young girls in Scotland. It can make such a difference to their lives and to the face of the digital technology industry. So be the change, spread the change. Thank you very much for listening. I will take questions from people who have any, but thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and I'm going to stop the recording now.